The world produces more food than at any other moment in human history. More machines, more chemicals, more data, more technology. From the outside, it looks like a miracle of engineering. From the inside, it is a system under permanent stress. Not because it failed, but because it succeeded too well at the wrong objective. For most of human history, farming was simple. Not easy, simple. Seeds, soil, rain, time. Food production was limited by natural boundaries. Weather decided, soil decided, seasons decided. Entire civilizations rose and collapsed based on how well they understood those limits. Then, in less than 1 century, agriculture stopped being a biological process and became an industrial system. Animals were replaced by engines. Crop rotation was replaced by synthetic fertilizer. Weeds were replaced by chemical formulas. Farmers were replaced by operators of heavy machinery, software dashboards, and debt schedules. This transformation was sold as progress. And in many ways, it was. Yields exploded, food prices dropped, famine decreased in many regions. A single farmer could feed hundreds, then thousands. The story was simple and comforting. Technology defeated scarcity. Modern agriculture would finally free humanity from hunger. Governments celebrated, corporations expanded, universities rewrote textbooks. Farming became efficient. But efficient for what? The system optimized one metric above all others: short-term output per hectare. Not soil health, not water stability, not ecosystem resilience, not long-term fertility, only output, more tons, more volume, more quarterly results. This single obsession reshaped the planet. Fields became larger, crops became uniform, genetic diversity collapsed. Instead of thousands of local varieties adapted to their environments, the world became dependent on a small number of industrial strains engineered for transport, storage, and chemical compatibility. Agriculture became predictable, controllable, scalable. On paper, it looked perfect. But biological systems do not behave like factories. They remember what we do to them, and they charge interest. Modern agriculture did not eliminate nature. It borrowed from it, aggressively. The promise was abundance without consequences. The reality was debt, invisible debt, stored in soil particles, stored in groundwater, stored in lost species, stored in farmer balance sheets. The lie was never that modern agriculture increased production. It did. The lie was that this production could continue indefinitely. That extraction could replace regeneration. That chemistry could permanently substitute biology. At first, the warning signs were subtle. Slightly more fertilizer each year. Slightly deeper wells. Slightly stronger pesticides. Temporary solutions. Minor adjustments. But systems built on constant extraction always reach a threshold. A point where efficiency becomes fragility. Where optimization becomes dependency. Where success becomes the mechanism of collapse. Modern agriculture did not just grow food. It built a structure that looks strong, and is hollow in critical places. To understand the lie, we must first understand what productivity really means, and what it carefully hides. Productivity is the most powerful word in modern agriculture. It appears in government policy, in investor reports, in academic research, in corporate presentations. It sounds objective, neutral, scientific, but productivity is not a natural law. It is a definition, and definitions decide what matters. In agriculture, productivity usually means only one thing: yield per hectare. How much crop can be extracted from a piece of land in a single season? Nothing else. Not soil structure, not microbial life, not water retention, not erosion, not biodiversity, not long-term fertility, just output. This single metric quietly transformed farms into extraction sites. If yields increase, the system is declared healthy, even if everything else is deteriorating. Imagine a factory increasing production by dismantling its own machines for spare parts. The numbers would look impressive, until the machines stop working. That is modern farming. High yields today are often purchased with lower yields tomorrow. But tomorrow does not appear in quarterly reports, so it does not exist in strategic planning. To maintain constant growth, farms must replace what the soil loses every year. Organic matter declines, microorganisms disappear, soil structure collapses. The response is chemical substitution. Nitrogen replaces natural fertility, phosphorus replaces biological recycling, potassium replaces mineral balance. Plants grow, but the soil becomes inert. From above, fields look healthy, green, uniform, orderly. Below the surface, ecosystems collapse silently. Living soil becomes a passive container for roots and chemicals, not a living system. The illusion works because humans eat plants, not soil, so the damage remains invisible at first. Then erosion accelerates, water runs off instead of soaking in, drought becomes harsher, floods become more destructive, fields become dependent on permanent intervention. Remove fertilizer and yields collapse. Remove pesticides and crops fail. Remove irrigation and plants wither. What looks like efficiency is dependency, a biological system redesigned into a machine that cannot be turned off. This dependency spreads across the entire food chain. Seeds are engineered to tolerate chemicals. Chemicals are engineered for those seeds. Machines are engineered for those crops. Each layer reinforces the next. A closed loop, difficult to escape, expensive to challenge, politically protected, because productivity numbers justify everything. They justify land consolidation. They justify chemical expansion. They justify monoculture. They justify ignoring long-term damage. But physics does not negotiate. No system extracts forever without depletion. Modern agriculture's productivity is real, but it is borrowed, taken from the future, and the cost appears in places consumers rarely see. In soil analysis reports, in empty aquifers, in farms drowning in debt, in rural towns slowly disappearing. The system does not record these losses. They are not counted as negative yield. They do not affect the chart, so they do not exist. That is the illusion, and illusions are powerful, until reality interrupts them. The next layer of the lie lies underground, inside the soil itself. Soil is not dirt, it is one of the most complex living systems on Earth. A single teaspoon of healthy soil contains more living organisms than there are humans on the planet. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, insects. Together, they form the biological engine that creates fertility. This system took thousands of years to assemble. Modern agriculture dismantled it in decades. Plowing shatters fungal networks. Chemical pesticides wipe out entire microbial communities. Synthetic fertilizers feed plants directly while starving the organisms that build soil. Monoculture removes diversity from both the surface and the underground. Season after season, the soil becomes simpler, less alive, more fragile. Dead soil can still grow crops. For a while, but only with artificial life support. This is why fertilizer use increases almost everywhere, even when yields stop rising. The soil is no longer contributing. It is being bypassed. Globally, tens of billions of tons of fertile soil are lost to erosion every year. That is not just soil loss. It is time loss, because soil forms in centuries. Not seasons, not decades, centuries. We are burning geological savings at industrial speed. Without living soil, agriculture becomes chemistry performed on borrowed land. And borrowed systems always come with interest. As organic matter disappears, the soil loses its structure. Water stops infiltrating. It runs off the surface, carrying nutrients and chemicals into rivers. Roots struggle to penetrate compacted layers. Microorganisms lose their habitat. Life retreats. Farmers respond the only way the system allows. More fertilizer, more irrigation, more chemicals, more machinery. Each solution increases dependency. Each correction creates a new weakness. Costs rise, margins shrink, debt grows. The farmer becomes a technician maintaining a degrading biological machine. Not a steward of land, not a caretaker of ecosystems, but an operator keeping a failing system alive one season at a time. Soil collapse does not announce itself. It does not create explosions. It does not shut down cities overnight. It is silent, invisible, progressive. It happens beneath wheat fields in North America, under corn belts, under rice paddies in Asia, under soy plantations in South America. Everywhere industrial farming dominates, the surface remains green, the spreadsheets remain optimistic, the supermarkets remain full, until thresholds are crossed. Once organic matter falls below critical levels, recovery becomes extremely slow. Sometimes impossible within a human lifetime. The soil loses its memory, its ability to regenerate, its capacity to buffer drought, its resistance to disease. At that point, land is no longer soil. It is substrate, a thin platform that only works when constantly injected with chemicals. A biological corpse animated by fossil fuel. Civilizations have collapsed before because they destroyed their soil. It happened in Mesopotamia, in the Mediterranean, in Central America. History records it clearly. Modern agriculture believes it is different. Because it has technology, because it has chemicals, because it has data. But no technology can negotiate with biology. And no amount of fertilizer can replace a living ecosystem. Soil is the foundation of food. Food is the foundation of civilization. And modern agriculture is slowly erasing both. Quietly, methodically, one harvest at a time. Modern agriculture stands on two invisible pillars: synthetic fertilizer and water. They rarely appear in advertisements. They rarely appear in documentaries. But without them, industrial farming collapses in a single season. Fertilizer looks like science: clean, precise, modern. In reality, it is fossil fuel transformed into food. Nitrogen fertilizer is produced using natural gas. Energy becomes nutrition. Every calorie grown in industrial systems is partially a fossil calorie. Food is no longer just biological. It is petrochemical. Phosphorus comes from mines, finite mines, concentrated in only a few regions of the world. Once removed, it does not regenerate. Not in decades, not in centuries. In geological time, potassium follows the same logic. Agriculture no longer depends on ecosystems. It depends on extraction industries. Mining, drilling, global logistics, energy markets. Fields appear natural. Their foundation is industrial. This system assumes permanent access to cheap energy and stable supply chains. History suggests that is a dangerous assumption. Then there is water, the second pillar, the quieter one. Aquifers that took thousands of years to fill are being drained in decades. In some agricultural regions, groundwater levels fall several meters every year. Wells grow deeper, pumps grow stronger, energy consumption increases. Fields remain green, for now, but groundwater is not a renewable resource on human timescales. When it is gone, rain alone is not enough. Entire farming regions already survive on liquid debt. The Ogallala Aquifer in the United States, northern China, India, the Middle East, parts of South America. Water is being extracted faster than nature can replace it. Rivers fail to reach the sea. Lakes shrink, wetlands disappear, and yet production continues, because stopping would reveal the truth that modern yields depend on temporary abundance. Fertilizer and water create extraordinary productivity. They also create extreme vulnerability. Any disruption becomes systemic: energy shortages, geopolitical conflict, supply chain collapse, sanctions, climate instability, a drought, a heat wave, a single broken logistics link, and food production trembles, not slowly, immediately. This is not resilience, it is performance under perfect conditions. A system optimized for stability, operating inside an unstable world. Farmers feel this vulnerability first. Costs fluctuate wildly, fertilizer prices spike, fuel becomes expensive, water becomes regulated, debt increases, risk concentrates. One bad season becomes financial catastrophe. Not ecological failure, financial failure. The system does not punish environmental damage. It punishes interruption. So farmers continue. They extract, they pump, they fertilize, they survive. Season by season, the structure holds, barely, because modern agriculture is not designed to slow down. It is designed to expand. It must grow to service its debt. It must produce more to pay for last year's inputs. It must scale to remain competitive. This turns fertilizer and water into chains, not tools. Chains binding food production to energy markets and climate stability. Two things humanity does not control. From space, the fields look peaceful, geometric, organized, efficient. On the ground, they are fragile systems running at full capacity. With no margin, no buffer, no pause button. The lie is not that modern agriculture is productive. It is. The lie is that this productivity is stable. It is not. It is balanced on energy, on water, on geopolitics, on climate, on debt. Remove any one of them, and the system does not bend. It fractures. The final layer of the lie is not in the soil, not in the chemicals, not in the water. It is in the human cost, and in what happens next. Modern agriculture did not only change land, it changed people. Farmers were once the center of food systems. They selected seeds, they understood soil, they adapted to weather, they passed knowledge through generations. Today, many of them operate like technicians inside a machine they do not control. They manage equipment worth more than their homes. They follow software recommendations. They negotiate with banks more than with the land. They calculate risk in interest rates, not in rainfall patterns. Costs rise every year. Seeds, fertilizer, fuel, machinery, chemicals, water. Margins shrink. Debt grows. A single bad season can erase decades of work. Not because the soil failed, but because the financial structure did. Farms consolidate, small operations disappear, land is bought by corporations, investment funds, pension portfolios. Ownership detaches from stewardship, food production becomes an asset class. A line in a spreadsheet. Rural communities hollow out, schools close, local businesses vanish, young people leave, knowledge disappears. What remains are large operations optimized for efficiency, not for resilience. Consumers see abundance, supermarket shelves full, prices relatively stable, endless choice, but this abundance is thin. It depends on energy, on logistics, on chemicals, on water, on political stability, on climate behaving itself. The system cannot slow down. If it slows, debt breaks it. If it stops, supply chains collapse. So it accelerates. More extraction, more consolidation, more dependency, not because it is evil, but because its design allows no other behavior. This is the final layer of the lie. Not that modern agriculture works, but that it can gradually fix itself. Systems built on structural dependency do not reform smoothly. They adapt after crisis, or collapse into something else. History shows this pattern repeatedly. The question is not whether modern agriculture is efficient. It is. The question is how long efficiency can survive without foundations. Soil without life, water without renewal, farmers without autonomy, food without resilience. The future of agriculture will not be decided by a single invention. Not by AI, not by new chemicals, not by bigger machines. It will be decided by one choice: whether civilization continues to treat land as a factory, or returns to treating it as a living system. Regeneration instead of extraction, biology instead of substitution, resilience instead of maximum output. This transition will not be comfortable. It will challenge profits. It will disrupt industries. It will break familiar models. But the alternative is simpler. A system that keeps optimizing until there is nothing left to optimize. Food systems do not collapse with explosions. They thin, they weaken, they simplify, and then they fail, quietly, then suddenly. Modern agriculture is built on a lie, not because it produces food, but because it teaches us to believe that production is the same as sustainability. It is not. One feeds the present, the other decides if there is a future.